Selection of Breeders and Artificial Insemination. This lecture was adopted from the International Training Center on Pig Husbandry on their free webinar on Fundamentals of Swine Genetics, Breeding System, Selection Techniques, and Artificial Insemination. So here are the learning objectives. To be able to learn the techniques in selecting high-quality stocks for continued breeding and production of market hogs, and artificial insemination as a methodology for rapid breeding and genetic material improvement. Selection. When we say selection, this is the basis as pig raisers for selecting the animal. With natural selection, the animals would be choosing their own partners. However, with what is going on with the pig industry, the people in the pig farms are the ones who choose which animals would be the parents of the next generation. In selection, there is a mechanism in place to rank the animals based on criteria. Techniques in selecting high-quality stocks for continued breeding and production of market hogs. First, pigs have own characteristics. Each pig raiser has own idea of a good pig. And what is important is the production and performance of the animals partly depend on selection of the breeders. So the following are the aim. First is to have a large litter size at weaning, fast growers and highly efficient feed converters, and lastly, to have the best quality carcass. Selection of gilts. The aim is to keep animals that you expect to raise the most piglet per sow per year without genetic abnormalities. In selection, it begins with physical soundness, selection index, estimated breeding values, DNA marker, and genomic selection, but in the future, we start with genomic selection because there are traits that we seek in our gilts. Physical characteristics would include the visual appraisal of leg soundness, length, and the number of teats. From left to right, this figure shows the three different appearances of the vulva. So we have here the abnormal vulva, the small vulva, and the normal vulva. So it is important to note that gilts with small infantile vulva or abnormal vulva should not be chosen. So here we also have the upturned vulva, which can be difficult for a boar to naturally breed, and there is a little difficulty in conducting artificial insemination. On the left, we have a figure showing an infantile vulva. So an infantile vulva makes it hard to breed naturally or by artificial insemination. Abnormally smaller reproductive tract on the inside than normal, and may have difficulty in farrowing. So the next picture shows an ideal vulva, which is proportional in size with the tip pointing downward. This figure shows a well-developed underlines or mammary glands. And the next figure shows a good teat placement, so it is evenly placed and parallel to each other. So it is also shown here the number, spacing, and presentation of live teats for at least 12, and the number and quality are highly heritable. The position of the teats on the udder is equally as important as teat conformation. It is no use having 14 perfect teats if their placement results in poor accessibility at birth. Teats should be equally spaced with no supernumerary ones and be in two parallel lines. When teats diverge, they are poorly presented to the piglet at birth. Animals with large girths also exaggerate the teat placement. Bad teat conformation is one of the major reasons why a breeding female will not rear 11 or 12 pigs. There may be a history in herd of good litters born, yet by the time the pigs are 5 days of age, 2 or 3 begin to show signs of lack of milk, they lose condition and have to be fostered. 2 pigs can survive on 1 teat in the first 12 to 24 hours after farrowing, but eventually, the stronger pig takes over and the other is left with a teat that has now become accessible, but it has started to dry off. The placement of good teats on the boar that is used to produce breeding females should also be given due emphasis at selection.
Becoming familiar with the nipple or teat forms is important when selecting your breeding stock. The perfect teat is elongated and pointed with two teat canals opening to the exterior. That is why class 1, 2, and 3 teeth is functional. A class 4 teeth is one where the teeth sphincter is not visible. In other words, the teeth canal is shortened, resulting to an inverted teeth. A class 5 teeth is usually one where the teeth has been rubbed off in the first 48 hours of birth. This is a damaged one and it is non-functional because it does not have any teeth canal. Another important factor in selecting a breeder is that it should come from a large litter size with 10 to 12 piglets with uniform weights. Gilts should have strong legs and strong back for longevity. The standard back fat for crossbreeds is 1.7 to 1.8 centimeters and 1.8 to 2 centimeters for pure breeds. They should also be weighing 130 to 150 kilograms at the time of breeding or at 8 months of age. Selection of boars. When it comes to boars, one of the bases for selection is the physical characteristics. Examples are visual appraisal of leg soundness, length, and number of teats. For the visual appraisal, we have the physical soundness. It means that there should be masculinity in appearance and action, and it should be associated with reproductive potential. For the boar performance test, we have the libido test. Libido test scoring. 1 means strong mounting on dummy sow within 3 minutes. 2. Good mounting with few attempts and on dummy sow within 10 minutes. 3. Less mounting but on dummy sow with assistance after 15 minutes. 4. No mounting attempt to the dummy sow within 20 minutes. Those that obtain the score of 1 and 2 are classified as AI for action. Those that are scoring 3 means they need the assistance of the caretaker in order for them to mount. The score of 4 is given to those boars that do not attempt to mount. Another important factor in selecting a boar for breeding is its gait. It is important that when the boar is walking, the back should be straight and the ham is not swaying because it indicates that the boar has weak legs. The primary sex organ should be clearly visible and well developed. The testicles should be uniformly hanging, uniform in size, and well developed. The testicles should be uniformly hanging because the temperature requirement of the sperm cells are 1 to 2 degrees Celsius lower than the normal body temperature. A boar with large testicles is most likely to produce earlier maturing daughters. The selection of boars is at 4 to 6 months of age. The ideal body conformation is well-proportioned body length, depth, and height. Criteria used for auction. The criteria used for auction are: first, the size of the testicles and quality of primary sex organs. Second, neatness and trimness of head and shoulders. When walking, the bones in the shoulders should not be seen. Third, strength of pastern and straightness of legs. It is also preferred to have even toe nates. Fourth, ham development. And fifth, width of back, loin, and body. Another criteria is the gait and body conformation. It is judged upon reaching 107 kilograms body weight. The criteria for individual performance, we have the back fat thickness, the growth rate or ADG, or also known as average daily gain, and feed conversion efficiency. For the boar performance test, upon entry it should weigh 21 to 32 kilograms, and the testing period is 12 weeks. For the back fat testing, it is done on final weighing.
There are some instruments that can measure the semen density. First, we have the colorimeter. The amount of sperm present is directly related to the optical density of the semen sample. And after being precisely calibrated, the colorimeter offers a quick way to determine the semen concentration. Another instrument is the spermiodensimeter. It is a device that uses a corresponding table to give the semen concentration. Another instrument is the photometer. It gives 90% accurate measurement. The sperm density is determined in the sample of undiluted semen. To achieve equal temperature of semen and diluent, which is a prerequisite for dilution, first, place the extender in the water bath for 45 minutes to 1 hour prior to collection. The degree of dilution depends on the concentration of the sperm ejaculate. Following dilution, the semen is poured in an insemination bottle and then tightly capped. It is now ready for storage at 60 degrees to 70 degrees centigrade inside the semen storage refrigerator or by a ref. At this temperature, the cell consumes minimum amount of energy which prolongs life outside the boar's body. The best conditions should be present for insemination. The sow must find the procedure enjoyable for the hormone oxytocin to be secreted, which closes the uterus and draws the semen into the uterine tube in preparation for the ovul's arrival. To inseminate, proceed as follows. Clean and wash the vulva lips and the surrounding skin. Part the vulva lips and insert the catheter gently but firmly upwards and forwards to the vagina. Push and turn the catheter in a counterclockwise movement until it locks in the cervix. A correct lock will be recognized by the tendency of the catheter to spring back in a clockwise direction. Collect the semen bottle and shake gently to thoroughly mix. Push the muzzle of the semen bottle into the end of the catheter. Move the catheter gently back and forth while keeping it locked in the cervix. Stimulate the uptake of the semen by gently rubbing the backs of the sow with the free hands while inseminating. The following are the advantages of artificial insemination. First, AI allows a greater degree of choice by giving the breeder herds access to a top caliber boars for the improvement of their genetic program. AI also offers flexibility in management relative to batch farrowing and weaning. It also offers a method of disease control by using outside boars without adding new animals in the herd. Moreover, AI stud boars are subject to much more stringent health checks. Gilts can be mated to older boars without risk of injury. And lastly, it solves the problem of transporting boars.
Good day, everyone. I am Cristel Mendoza and I will be reporting artificial insemination semen collection. Here in the Philippines, artificial insemination was introduced in as early as 1965. However, the results were not encouraging. The whole AI procedure starts from the selection and training of boars, semen collection and evaluation, to processing and storage of semen, and eventually the actual insemination process. All AI boars are evaluated based on the following parameters. First, it should be healthy. Second, no physical genetic defects or genital abnormalities. Third, good libido. Fourth, good semen quantity and quality. And take note that boars that do not pass these rigid standards are called or used for natural mating. Training should be a pleasurable experience for the boar. He must never be abused, pushed, or hurt while moving in and out of the collection area. Training of the boar must be on a regular schedule. Normally, untrained boars may not mount on the dummy when first introduced, but usually does so in the second or third exposure. Once the boar mounted the dummy, it is essential to collect semen so that an association was built between the dummy and the service boar. Take note that boars used in AI should not be used for natural mating. Here are the following step-by-step procedure in artificial insemination. First, a properly trained and mature boar is ready for collection. Second, bare hands should be properly soaked and rinsed. Fingernails are trimmed short. Third, it is recommended that the semen collector should use a disposable vinyl, polyethylene, or plastic gloves to reduce contamination of the collected semen. Semen collection starts when the boar leaves the pen and starts walking to the collection area. The boar normally walks around the dummy. Wash the penile area with water to remove excess dirt that might contaminate the semen. The gloved hand should remove the peripheral fluid, which is normally contaminated with urine and bacteria that can spoil the semen. Allow him to make a few copulatory thrusts and extend the penis on his own. Grasp the penis with the fingers of your collecting hand, lightly at first and then firmly. It is also important to take note to stimulate the cervix of the sow, because some boars prefer rhythmic contractions of your hand. And immediately after collection, The semen will be brought to the laboratory, and all materials that will come in contact with the semen should be sterilized and rewarmed. Take note to evaluate the color, smell, and volume and weight of the semen. Microscopic evaluation provides depth and quantity of data in order to supplement the visual evaluation of the semen. Here are the criteria for microscopic examination. First, sperm motility. A forward motion should be observed in which the corresponding motility scale is assigned. A good quality semen exhibits a vigorous forward motion. Second, semen morphology. The proportion of the normal cell in the semen sample should be noted, and phase contrast microscopy is used in checking abnormal cells. Here are the indications of abnormal sperm cells. First, the presence of cytoplasmic droplets. This indicates the late puberty of young boars or immature sperm cells. Second, bent or coiled sperm tail. This indicates that sperm cells are stressed by heat. Third, non-motile sperm cells. This indicates improper semen handling and storage techniques. Third is semen density. There are various methods in determining semen density. First is the ocular method. This is practical and economical. This method is also dependent on the color of the semen sample. We usually use the color guide: 3 for too watery semen, 6 too milky, and 10 too creamy, which is most desirable. Second and the last, hemocytometer method. This gives the most accurate number of cells in a given volume. However, it is relatively time-consuming.
For the boar performance testing, the entry weight starts at 21 to 32 kilograms, and for the testing period is for 12 weeks until they reach 110 plus or minus 3 kilograms. As for the back fat testing, it is done on the final weaning. The estimated breeding value as the basis for selection. Breeding value is the genetic merit of an animal. Half of the breeding value is passed on the offspring. So we should look for superior parents that will most likely produce superior offspring. The accuracy rises and increases for both boar and gilts. So we should look at the physical characteristic, individual performances, and the EBV or the estimated breeding value selection index. Again, the estimated breeding value, it was stated that the half of the breeding value is passed into the offspring. So the breeding value is the sum of the independent or the additive effects of the gene, the genetic merit based on the sum of the gene, and it should be corrected for no environmental effect. The estimated breeding value is derived from phenotype without knowledge of the gene that affect the traits of the interest. So the selection index is good when it is more than 200. In addition, the use of the mass or the marker gene, so this is assisted the choices of the genetic markers that may help with the decision making of the animal. The advantages of the genotyping. Number one, it is not affected by the environment. Number two, in all selected candidates, we can choose specific trait that can be obtained in all candidates. Number three, it is available at an early age. And number four, we can get genetic information on any type of the cell of the body. And lastly, direct selection of the gene is possible. So with the use of the genotyping, the management of the decision making is early. It can also help or decide if a specific pig can be used as a boar. So we have here the list of the gene that can be tested in swine genetic laboratory testing. Why we need to select a boar. So boar produces more offspring than a sow in a year. So it can also produce daughters or gilts that later on may be a future breeders. So we have here the reproductive markers that are used for boar to make maternal purebred mating. Also, we have here the growth markers that is used for boar to develop terminal sire lines. Boar performance testing protocol and standard. The performance test in semen quality and mounting is at the age of 6 months and 1 month after the getting the ADG, FE, and BF test. So the mounting test is last for 10 to 20 minutes, while the semen evaluation test, like the motility and morphology standard of a sperm. So we have here 60 billions per ml is the requirement for a boar to be an AR boar, and 75% of a normal sperm cell is good for auction. But if the number of the sperm cells are below 40 billion per ml, it is not good for auction.
There were questions that were asked during the meeting, and these questions were asked by the audience. One of the questions that was asked during the meeting is, how can a gilt or sow get infected with UTI? And it was answered, there are many factors that could cause UTI in the animal. UTI can be acquired if we are not handling the sow or the gilt in a sterile technique. For example, the catheter that we will be using will become contaminated, and it could also come from the boar. So, the boar that has disease or has infection should not be used for breeding. And the other question was, after the sow has given birth, how many weeks does it take for the sow to be able to breed again? And it was answered. After the sow has labored, it will nurse its piglets for around 28 to 30 days, then the piglets will be weaned. Then the sow would undergo to dry period between 5 to 7 days and maximum is 10 days. After this period, the sow should be in heat again and should be inseminated and become pregnant again.